boys and girls. It's tomato planting time, ready or not. Alright, so here we are out in the garden. I wanted to pick up a couple of these guys and just take a look at them. Show you what they look like. They're not very tall, but that's okay, because if you look at the bottom, that's a pretty thick stalk there though. And I feel pretty good about that. They have a little bit of purple. You can see these first leaves over here are pretty purple underneath. And then as the new leaves popped up when we fertilized them, well, there's really not much, if any, purple. The stem's a little purple, but that's okay. Towards the bottom you can get a little light purple. Usually that just means there's some sort of nutrient deficiency. But we put a fan on these guys and we put them outside for quite a bit of time to harden them off. And the stalks are looking pretty thick. They're definitely not leggy at all. They're just a little short, but we got nice leaves on them. And we're going to put them in the ground. So another thing is we put our tomatoes in. This is actually what we're going to be putting in with them. It's Biotone starter plant food. We're just going to mix a little bit in at the roots. We're going to dig holes and start planting these tomatoes over here into the ground, because we've done the other four. Now with the other four we did not actually use this, so we may actually get a little bit of a comparison. The other four we actually bought though, so they're probably a little bit further ahead than the ones that we planted or that we grew from seed. So maybe this will help them catch up and maybe even surpass them. We're still going to do fertilizing after this. You know, every couple of weeks or so we'll put some fertilizer on there to keep them growing, keep them happy. But yeah, so this is what we're going to use to start. I stopped the time lapse for a minute because I wanted to show you something that we have that's a problem. See little spotted spots, black spots on a yellow back? This is a cucumber beetle, and it has already found its way onto this cup. So we definitely have them here, and they'll fly from leaf to leaf and eat the leaves. It's a bad insect. You don't want those. They look like kind of like ladybugs, but they're definitely not ladybugs, and their larvae are the ones that will eat the roots. So we definitely want to get rid of those. This guy's a bad guy. Don't want it in your garden. One down. Unknown amounts to go. So I have 2 rows of tomatoes planted, not at all straight, but planted nonetheless. It's going to be fine. Need to water that guy again. I don't think I actually watered it. And so we'll see if they make it. It's actually going to be kind of cool tonight. I hesitated to put them out here, but That's all right. They'll either make it or not. They've been in colder situations, probably in the cellar. But the ground's actually pretty warm. As I dig down with my hands over here, I can feel warmth. So I think they're going to be fine. And I guess we'll see. So a quick thing to talk about what I just did. I planted 2 rows. I dug the rows, or dug holes in the rows about 1.5 feet or 1 foot apart. I didn't really measure them. It's not that important. I had an amount I wanted to get in, as many as I could, but keeping them at least 1 foot apart is good. We actually have a twin tomato plant here. Every once in a while we get twins, and I like to have one twin of just about everything just to talk about it. It makes it something you can keep an eye on and see how the twins do. So basically what I did is I dug a hole. At the bottom of the hole, I put some of that starter fertilizer. I put a little bit of water in there as well to kind of water that in, and also give the very bottom of the roots a little bit of moisture. Because if you come through here and water on the top, if you don't put a lot, which we're not doing, it won't get down to the bottom anyway. It'll just stay in that top layer. Especially in heavy clay soil, it just won't get there, and this will just dry out. But, so I covered it back up, put the roots down, covered it back up, and I planted them a little bit deeper than they were in the cups. So I ripped off some of the bottom leaves and planted them deeper. Then I watered in the top a little bit just to kind of give around the stem a little bit of water there, so that hopefully we can start producing roots there. So that's the goal. So I figured I'd take a minute and just look at this tomato plant. So we planted this tomato plant from seeds in a seed block. Unfortunately, this is one of the 2 that didn't make it into the garden. They didn't make the cut. It was just too much of a little runt, and it never really picked up. Unfortunately, it's not going to make it. It's already got a bug on the bottom there. Great. But I wanted to point out a couple of things as I planted these, what I did. You see those 2 bottom leaves? Those are actually the starter leaves. So this one never really grew big enough, but when the other ones grew, when we replanted them into the cups, we took the bottom leaves off and planted it deeper into the ground, or into this cup. So this one never made it. But what we would have done is, let me put this here, is we would have taken these leaves off. We'd have picked them off just like so. And then we would have buried it up to about right here. You see all these little hairs? Basically, the cool thing about tomatoes is that they'll grow roots from just about anywhere. So if you bury them deeper, they'll actually grow roots out of here. And the more that you bury it, the stronger the root system is, because the deeper the root system is. So you can do a couple of different things. You can transplant it in deeper and deeper a couple of times, or if you want, you can just bury it deep in the ground when you actually plant it in. But what we did was we took the 2 starter leaves off, buried it about this deep, then let this grow, and then this leaf here would be what I would have pulled off today, and maybe even one of these leaves, and buried it even deeper, so that it keeps growing up, and then the root system would have been that long, or the stem would have been growing roots out that long. And so the roots grow really well that way. And we've probably had them in here for maybe a couple of weeks, and they already had roots growing all the way out and around. So you definitely want to, try to bury them as much as you can. You don't want to replant them every 10 minutes or anything, but, maybe a couple of times before you put them in the ground. And then when you put them in the ground, put them as deep as you can. You don't want the leaves necessarily touching the ground, so you got to kind of be careful of that, but there's not much you can do. Just close to the ground, as you can. They'll grow pretty fast once they're in there, but definitely bury them as deep as you can. That way they have strong roots. But also with tomato plants, it doesn't really matter how strong the roots are. When they get to be, a few feet tall and have a ton of tomatoes on them, they're going to need support. So these roots are good for winds, you know, especially when they're small, to kind of keep them grounded. And obviously the more roots, the more nutrients can be sucked up into the plant, so that's better. But also it's pretty stable, and then it won't rely as much on the trellising or tying up or cages or whatever it is that you put on the tomato plants. So, but I wanted to show you this little guy here because he unfortunately isn't going to make it. This is his last day. But he got to be famous. Poor little tomato plant. So he may not grow his tomatoes this year, but he gets to be a cover photo and live in infamy forever, which is better. So the day's almost done. Well, not really, but it's getting close. I've pretty much accomplished what I was trying to accomplish today. So one thing I like wearing this straw hat. It's wonderful in the sun. Doesn't do much for you in the shade, but it is a good sweatband. Interesting story is my grandfather's. The only thing I have from my grandfather on my dad's side is a straw hat similar to this, maybe a little bit smaller. It's got an Alabama logo on it, but the thing I liked about it and what made me want to keep it was that it had a bunch of salt in the liner, and it was from all that sweat and hard work that he put into his garden. Now, he didn't do everything the right way, and my dad and him disagreed on things, but you know, he was one tough guy, well into his 70s, and I don't know if he was in his 80s yet, probably not, but he was out there hand watering his garden with a bucket. And it was a big garden. It was probably bigger than what we've got here, with a bucket. Of course, my dad would probably say that's stupid, and it is. You should try to find better ways of doing it than a bucket, but it's tough, that's for sure. And there's something to be said for being a little tough. When the work's done, you got some water. Oh, it tastes so good. Well water. At the end of the day, we wanted to do this because we want to be able to grow our own food, and we just enjoy it. It's not for the end of the world or, you know, to save mankind. It's so that one day we can sit out here, not have to worry about starving to death one day or food prices or anything like that, and we can enjoy the things that we eat out of the ground. I've never wanted to eat a radish so much in my life, and I can't wait. So tomorrow we're going to do a live stream, and we're going to eat some radishes. Why? Because it's time to pull them out of the ground, and we're ready to eat them. So Amy's going to be here tomorrow night, and we're going to do a live stream from the garden. Hopefully the weather's nice, you know, we might change it. Hopefully our internet works well. We'll see. And you guys are more than welcome to come and join us as we eat for the first time from our garden. All right, guys, and with that, I'm going to let you go. I'll hopefully see you tomorrow. Hopefully this video will come out today. Otherwise, that's going to sound weird because it's going to be tonight. But I definitely appreciate you guys stopping by. You know, hopefully you learned a little something. See you.